I'm doing this video to show a major shortcoming in the Autool CT160, and who knows, maybe some of the other Autool fuel injection testers. But I had to build this custom fuel rail right here, and anybody that deals with high performance cars knows what a high flow fuel rail is, because you'll notice this is really going to be a problem when you're doing high flow injectors, such as these 36-pound Ford injectors. That I recorded this little video right here, and I'm going to show you the gauge fluctuation that it was doing. See that? It's fluctuating probably at least 10 pounds. Then it gets to the high flow test, and look at all that. That's a fuel starvation issue. And then the pressure can't even keep up at all. It drops down to, I don't know, 20, 25, whatever that was. But let me pause this. So that was on the medium speed test like we have right here. And I'm going to do a flow check with this custom built fuel rail. And look how this works. We have it set up at 45 psi. You can see there's a tiny little bit of fluctuation, but I think that's more because it's not a return fuel system. You know, where there'd like be a regulator on the end and then have fuel going back to the tank, like it would be set up in a car. It's a deadheaded system. But let's let this thing run out for a few more seconds and then see what kind of results we get. But look how steady the readings are. Okay. And let me give you details on this fuel rail. So I machined this out of a block of aluminum. It's about 1.5 by 1.25 by, I don't know, 6 or 7 inches long. This is your main galley right here. It's drilled all the way through. You can see this side, it's threaded for pipe thread. I actually threaded it a little too much on this side. That's why the pipe plug is so deep down in there. Then it obviously had to be machined that direction for the injectors. And then these galleys connect to the main galley back here, and then they're just plugged. So, hold that. Oh, wait, let's look at the readings here. I already done this before, and this one was testing a couple cc's or milliliters higher than these ones. So this injector is probably going to be out. I have about 18 of these 36-pound Ford fuel injectors. I got these at the junkyard out of Thunderbird Super Coupes. The year being around 93, because the earlier Super Coupes had red top 30-pound injectors. And like, for example, you can get these light blue 24-pounders out of F250s with the 460 engine. Those also came in Explorers. But we're trying to get the saline running. And those 36-pound injectors are going to go in here once I get a match set going. Okay, so back to where we were at with this fuel rail. You hold that. Let me take this off. This thing probably took like 4 hours to build. And then it took a couple more hours once I found out where I made a mistake. I don't need that right now. So you can see right here, I had to come back in and re-chamfer these holes, because I did it, and then I did a small like deep burring, so it wasn't really chamfered. So the injectors wouldn't slide in, believe it or not, because the O-rings were catching on the edge, and I had to come back and do all this work. But you can see here that that's about, I don't know if it's 3/8 or 7/16, and that's drilled all the way through. So you're going to have plenty of fuel flow, and there could be no restrictions at all. Had to drill and tap that for the gauge. And I'm going to give you one last tip. When you check fuel injectors, or if you're going to flow test them, oh, wait a minute. Stepping back a little bit. Look at the restriction on the stock fuel rail that comes with this thing. Okay? You can see how small that hole is. Down in there. Well, here's the size of the galley that they give you. That's not even 1/8 inch or something like that. And then you have those holes that connect to these adapters. And by the way, that adapter, I machined it specifically for Ford injectors. It won't even take the adapters that come with the kit. But look at that hole down in there, and then look at how many threads there are on their fitting, which is going to cover up like half of the hole once you thread that in there. So what's happening is you're getting your testing fluid coming in here, and you may be able to supply these two, but the galley is so small, you're not going to have enough flow to get the outer injectors. So if you're testing it, your gauge is bouncing around, and your outer beakers aren't filling up with fluid, you probably don't have bad injectors. You just have a fuel starvation issue through the galley here. Okay, so one other thing. I tested most of these. One injector wasn't flowing at all. It was completely dead. So I started doing ohms test. And typical for a Ford, they're about 14.6, 14.7, somewhere in that range. If you don't know the spec on your injectors, typically what you can do is just check all 4 of them, all 6, all 8, whatever you have. And if they're all pretty close to each other, you know that's going to be the spec. These are the high impedance Ford injectors. I tested all these. They're about 14.6, 14.7. Even the one that was completely dead tested out with the correct ohms, so it had a good circuit in there, but for some reason it wasn't firing. But anyway, I just wanted to give this technical information on the Autool and the lack of fuel flow through the rail. And I know there were some other guys on YouTube that did videos showing how they replaced the fuel pump in the Autool with like a 255 liter per hour or some bigger high performance fuel pump. But it doesn't matter how big of a pump you get. If it can't flow the test fluid through here, it's not gonna. You're not gonna get the right readings. Go over there one more time. Look at the difference in size there. The hole, that's about 1/8 inch compared to that. No fuel starvation here. Okay, have a good day.